Mark Nossokoff, Research Director and Lead Analyst for Storage and Interconnect and Cloud Research. Thank you for joining us today. In this portion of today's program, I'll be sharing the latest perspectives on HPC and AI in the cloud. I'll start with some market data before spending some time on what has transpired since SC24. I shared these during our SC24 breakfast briefing, but wanted to spend some time on them again. This data from our most recent global market survey shows respondents' preferred CSP provider. AWS was cited as the most preferred primary CSP, and Google moved into the second most preferred, surpassing Azure from the prior survey. However, when considering all CSPs used as respondent sites, Google and Azure are effectively tied as the second most preferred. Preferences shift when looking at respondents who run 50% or more of their AI workloads in the cloud. AWS remains as the most preferred, cited by a large percentage of the respondents. Azure edges slightly ahead of Google as the second most preferred. Turning to look at market share, HPC AI-related revenues are increasing for most global CSPs, with some shifting of share. Looking at the latest available market share data, note our year-end 2024 results were not available at the time of this recording. AWS maintains a strong market share position, albeit with competitors gaining share at AWS's expense. Google Cloud Platform edged past Microsoft Azure with the second highest share position. Services from the NeoCloud class of provider are also gaining share, as seen in the growing other category. More on NeoClouds in a bit. So what's happened since SC24 relative to HPC and AI in the cloud? While not an exhaustive or all-inclusive industry summary, this gives a flavor for the investments and innovations occurring across the cloud ecosystem. From the technology and service provider side of things, each of the CSPs made significant announcements at their respective annual industry and developer events. Most, if not all, major CSPs announced availability of NVIDIA Blackwell-based instances. Google revealed Ironwood, its 7th generation TPU, along with new H4D VMs, enhancements to its cluster toolkit and cluster director, and Google Cloud managed Lustre to complement its parallel file system offering. AWS announced GA for Trainium 2 and a preview announcements for Trainium 3, along with FSX support for EFA and GPU Direct. Azure announced new HP v5 VMs and new security and DPU silicon for in-house use to complement their in-house Maya AI accelerator and in-house Cobalt CPU. From a cloud adoption and business perspective, CoreWeave executed a much-anticipated IPO, a market recognition of potential for this class of service. And after an extensive planning and evaluation period, UK Met switched off their on-premises machine and shifted production operations to dedicated Azure infrastructure, having completed the final step of running at full production in both environments for a month. Related to the CoreWeave IPO, the prevalence of AI as a service and GPU as a service continues to grow. Bolstered by enterprises increasingly integrating AI into their business workflows and operations, these NeoClouds are gaining traction due to their focus on AI-related infrastructure and ability to provide access to the latest commercially mainstream acceleration infrastructure. Enterprises can circumvent supply chain issues and are afforded a low commitment for access to GPU resources. AI as a service and GPU as a service can also help organizations achieve their sustainability goals. Organizations may not have the available power or liquid cooling infrastructure required by the latest state-of-the-art accelerated solutions and can leverage providers' investments in these areas to support their internal sustainability objectives. The terms hyperscaler and CSP have evolved to mean different things to different market constituents, and in some cases are even used interchangeably. We're starting to view the market as more of a spectrum and are largely keeping the taxonomy differentiated. On one end of the spectrum are the hyperscalers, consumers and producers of both of the latest technology at massive scales focused on internal usage to develop HPC and AI-related services. They do not provide general-purpose instances for public consumption based on their internally developed technology. On the other end of the spectrum are service providers who do not develop their own custom silicon, and they provide a more focused array of services. And in the middle are a class of service providers who develop custom silicon for their own consumption, provision instances based on the latest commercially available technology, and provide a broad array of commercial HPC and AI-related services. Each segment operates at a hyperscale, but have a broad array of distinct technology and service offerings. This chart summarizes what we just walked through. We have several cloud-focused studies in process, some in their early stages wrapping up next week. We look forward to sharing results as they become available. Thanks again for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next week in Hamburg. Take care.